On today's episode of the How To series, we'll be talking about adding camera footage to your channel. Welcome back to the channel, Gaming for XP. Hope you're well today. And in today's episode, we're going to deep dive into using cameras for your YouTube, Twitch channel, streaming, whatever it might be. And in the next 3 weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to cover cameras, green screens, lighting, all that kind of good stuff. And then beyond that, what I plan to do is then implement that into using things like OBS for streaming and recording. So hopefully it's all going to be useful and it helps you grow your channel and improve the quality of what you're using content wise. So today we are going to consider a whole lot of things. It's going to be more of the fundamentals today about cameras and the equipment that you're going to need. So let's get learning. So I would suggest before you do absolutely anything, you got to answer the question of why do you want to add camera footage to your channel? What are you going to use it for? So here at Gaming for XP, we use it for a whole host of reasons. You can see here, this is some intro work that I did for the stream. You can use it for intros, outros. Obviously, one of the ones that stands out is streaming. You use it for streaming. Here we are streaming Borderlands 2. No, it's Borderlands pre-sequel, beg your pardon. And we will show you how to set this all up in the coming weeks. But of course, it really depends on what you're doing with your channel. Now, I'm assuming Gaming for XP is a gaming channel, so I use it in these ways. Of course, you might not be a gaming channel. You might actually be a cooking channel, or do vlogs, or show people how to play guitar, or whatever footage. So I think you need to just stop and consider the first point, because it will determine what my next couple of points are, and how you are going to implement using cameras on your channel. Adding a camera to your channel can be very expensive, or it can be very cheap. It just depends what you want to do. So I think you've got to think about setting a realistic budget for your equipment. Now, you know, for most of us, we do this part-time. We're not making money out of it, and you know, we have limited funds. So I'm going to talk about the equipment in a while, but I think this is an important point before you do anything. Determine what you're going to use the camera for, and then set a budget around that. And you don't have to go big straight away. You can do various things to start with, see if it works for you, and then progress. Here on the channel, I use 3 different setups, and I'm lucky that I can do that because, you know, my background is in photography, so I have all this camera gear at my beck and call. I understand that you may not be that lucky, you know, and you're going to have to be very selective in what you're going to buy. So a good tip is to do your research before buying anything, and I'm going to help you with that a little bit today by going through what you're going to need as far as gear goes. So let's focus in on the cameras for a minute, and then we will get into all the other stuff, the perennials, if you like, that goes with the cameras. So hopefully you've done the first 3 points and you're very clear on what you want to use it for, what the budget is, and you know, then you get into this and you can see there is a whole raft of different options out there. And I probably haven't captured them all, but these would be the main ones that you can use for your channel. Now, there's an iPhone there, or you know, an Android phone. I know a lot of people, and I have friends that have done this, that stream using a camera that comes from an iPhone or an Android phone. It is a good starting point, and there's no reason why you can't do that to start off with, and just see how it goes. You can buy a lot of accessory for phones now, like tripods and microphones that just plug into them. So it isn't a bad option if you are on a budget. So next to that is a webcam, and that's the webcam that I use. That is a Logitech 922C, I think it is. Now, if you don't mind using older technology, the Logitech C920 is actually a very well used webcam. It's older technology, but a lot of YouTubers are using that particular model of webcam, and it's very robust. So it really just depends on what kind of quality you want to get at. If you want to get 720, 1080, whatever. So there's no reason why you can't use the first two options to do all the work on your channel, none whatsoever, and we'll talk about why in a second. So the other four options are really getting into expensive territory. We've got the proper movie camera there. Video camera you might be able to pick up fairly cheaply, but it may have its limitations. But again, it should be something to consider. There's a DSLR there and a mirrorless camera there too. Again, like I said, it just depends on what you want to do. A lot of YouTubers are using exclude the video camera for a minute, but the other three they're using for vlogs and stuff like that. So really, none of these answers are wrong. None of these cameras are wrong. It just depends on how much money you want to throw at it, basically, because you're going to need to buy a few bits and pieces to back these up, depending on what you're doing. My suggestion is rely on the first two, either the phone or the webcam. I would lean towards a webcam. A webcam's pretty versatile, plugs into your computer, you can use it for intros, outros, streaming, all kinds of stuff. Obviously you can't go mobile with it, but I think it's probably a good starting point. Now, what comes with the cameras, we'll shrink them up into the corner, and you can see there's a whole lot of things that you potentially will need when you are using a camera. Now, I would say personally, the most important thing that you're going to need is some kind of light, some kind of way of lighting your face, if that's what you're going to do, lighting your cooking videos, whatever. And I'm going to do a separate guide on that because it's such an important thing to consider, and I think you can use an iPhone or an Android phone or whatever phone you use very successfully if you light the scene properly. And like I said, we'll cover that in a separate video. Microphones, I've already done a whole how-to series video on microphones, and I'll leave a link in the description about now so that you can go back and watch that. Obviously, green screens, lighting stands, tripods, all that kind of stuff, chargers, all kinds of stuff there's, that you're going to have to consider when you're doing your research about what you're going to need to use a camera. Now, you know, it can be as simple as a webcam that fixes to your monitor, plug it into your computer, and you're off and running. Maybe all you need there is a light and you're done. If you want to go green screen, then there you go. It's a very simple setup. So I'm going to go through a couple of the setups that I personally use here on the channel, just so you get an idea of how I do things. So here's the footage I showed you at the start. Now I'm using a Logitech C922 webcam, a video light which I'm going to do some further work on, and a green screen. That's all I use for streaming. It's as simple as that. If I go mobile, I'm using a DSLR with a tripod. I'm using my video light also on a light stand or a tripod, and I also use a lavalier mic, which is like a lapel mic. So that's a little bit more involved, but it's still easy to manage. It's not too complicated. A few extra pieces have been added to that particular setup. And thirdly, I use my iMac camera, just the one that's built into my iMac, to do the intros, outros, more because of the orientation and a video light with a green screen. And it's more to do with the orientation of my computer versus the way I stream. My webcam is actually fixed to my gaming monitor, so I could use the webcam for both, but it just keeps meaning I have to move it back and forward. But again, the webcam can do everything you need it to, and the rest all done in software. And we'll be covering that in next week's episode when we talk about green screens. So that's it for the first part of the discussion on cameras. I hope it's useful for you if you're considering adding a camera to the mix on your channel. Now, you'll see I've deliberately left the green screen in the background on this footage here, and we'll be covering that in next week's video. So if you have any questions on what we've covered today, or for next week's session what we're going to cover, please leave them down below in the comments section. If you are enjoying this series, a like rating is always appreciated. It helps the channel immensely. And if you have not subscribed yet, hit that big red button. Catch you later on Gaming for XP. See ya.